Hey everyone, I'm here today with something different. We are going to make a quilt all from wool. I hope that doesn't scare you because it's going to be super fun. So this is the quilt right here that we will be making. It's called Sleigh Ride. So it has crazy blocks, 16 of them, and then a triangle border. The whole quilt top is wool. Now, I know this might scare some of you, but follow along and I'll show you how simple it's going to be. All right, the first thing that you're going to need is 20 wool fat quarters. So if you have a nice wool collection, go in there and pull out 20 wool fat quarters, at least 15 by 25. And when I say 15, that's the least you can get by with. It's kind of right on the edges. Luckily, when we tear down our wools, we have a little bit wider than that, so it's just the right size. If you don't have wool at home and want to make this quilt, we will have a kit for you. And this is just the wool 20 of the fat quarters here. It's all stacked up and ready for us to work with. Then you're going to need a pattern for the Sleigh Ride quilt. This quilt originally was in the Primitive Christmas book. So you might have this if you're a longtime follower of us here at Primitive Gatherings. This book is now out of print, so we will be offering a new single pattern for this going forward. All right, so you're going to need your book or your pattern, and in there you're going to pull out your sheets for the block itself and the triangles. Uh-oh, I stuck this on here. Just put some fresh new tape on there. So rough cut your block out like this, and this is just for tracing, and then this is also a template. We're not going to trace this one, but we're going to use this template. But if you don't want to use the original, then make a copy of this. We're also going to need some double-sided tape. A large rotary cutter is going to be your friend. Trust me on this. Do not try to do this how I'm going to show you with the smaller cutter. If you want to use the smaller cutter, you're going to have to cut less pieces at once. And I don't like to do that because that's wear and tear on all my parts, okay? So the less is better. Then you're going to need a marking pen. A nice bright one will be the best. And then you're also going to need some freezer paper. Now I have gone ahead and ironed my freezer paper. Oh, maybe I didn't. I'm going to have to go do that. All right, so you're going to need freezer paper. You're going to do 5 of these if you're going to cut 4 at a time. Now, if you don't think you can handle 4 at a time, try 3 or 2, but that means you're going to have to make more of these. So we are going to be cutting the 20 fabrics. I'm going to be cutting 4 at a time. So I needed 5 of these. Okay? All right, so we'll be back ready to start cutting. All right, so you're going to take your 20 wool fabrics and you're going to divide them into groups. So I chose 4 because yes, I'm brave and I'm going to cut 4 at a time, and I'll show you how it's going to work. Now, I traced 5 of these templates from my pattern, so now I don't need this right at the moment, so I'm just going to set that aside. And then when you have your stack of 4 or 3 or whatever you choose to cut, line them up and find the smallest one. Yes, there's always going to be one that's just going to barely make it. So I have picked this blue one. This seems to be my smallest fabric. And I have ironed my template, freezer paper template. And let me just point out that there's sometimes better grades of freezer paper. This is just the one from the grocery store. It's not going to stick very well, but it's going to do enough of the job that I can make this work. So I put this on here right at the edge. And now I feel good about the other ones behind it. I've lined them all up. And now I'm confident that I'm going to get everyone. Now, if you are a little smidge short on one because you didn't see it, it's okay, because we're going to sew these together kind of like a flip and sew method, and there's a little wiggle room, and we're going to cut it down anyway. So it's not as particular as you think it might be. Okay? All right, so I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and my big ruler. All right, so now I'm going to take my large ruler and I'm going to line it right up on my drawn line. And this is why I like to use, like, for instance, I use red here or dark pink. So I can see that line really nice. So my first cut is going to be right there on that line. And yes, it's going to be ugly. You're going to see that paper crinkle up and shred a little bit. Now I'm just going to pull this to the side because I am going to use that later on. And if you have a rotating mat, that's probably going to work really good, but I can work pretty well without one. It's up to you. If you have one, use it, but you really don't need it. Now, you see how I'm going to press right down in the middle, and I am going to do a little bit and then a little bit there. So you're going to do the outside edges first. And if I didn't mention it, you might want a new blade for this. I use those endurance blades and they last a long, long time. Matter of fact, this one says 22. But this one's in the studio, so we probably don't use this as much as I use mine at home. All right, so now I have all the outside, and then I'm going to start with 14. Take this off, and I have previously cut all my other strips. So I'm just going to park these under the ones that I have already stacked up. So try to cut a few of them at a time. So now this one I'll be able to cut 2 before I have to put them in my stack. And as you go in, they cut better for some reason. I don't need that big long ruler. I'm going to go to my little bit shorter, more manageable ruler, press down. Off comes the 13. Pile it up on the 13 over here, underneath my stack. And it's very important that they're all in the same order. And you'll see at the end here when we're all done cutting. All right, I don't trust that 11 one. I'm going to cut that one. And even though this looks really bad, look at how nice this looks. So see how nice it cuts. But I know that's going to freak some people out when they cut that. All right, number 10. Nine. And wool's kind of it adheres to itself. You see, it's not sliding all over the place. It's really nice. Eight. I should have showed you all the colors in this wool kit. They are very different from the one behind me. They are more like every color and not just like red, green, and gold and brown. These have multi colors in it because we don't want to make the same quilt again, even though this is so much fun. You're going to love this. It's going to be different. And don't let this cutting deter you because it's really not that bad. Buy the quilter's freezer paper. I didn't have that with me here. All right, 4, 5, All right, so there we have our whole 20 all cut out. So what I did was, I had this down when I arranged all this. So I started with 1, 2, 3, and I put those all around. That's why I have them all ready in nice stacks to get going. All right, now with the remaining part of your fat quarter, it's time to cut the triangles for the border and the corner squares. Now I already have 3 of my cornerstones cut. You can cut them out of the first 4 or however that looks. I left 1 to show you how I did that. And then take your template. Now see, I've used this a couple times and it may need a little bit more tape on it. So I added a little bit more tape for this last set because it gets pretty fuzzy with the wool. And this really does help. So I'm just going to take this at a right angle, and sometimes I just follow the line in the plaid here, or I'm going to use this nice edge because this is a nice cut edge here. So I only need 2 of these from each fabric, and then I only need 1 more corner square. So if you look at my previous ones I have cut, this is how much I have left over. So there is a nice amount of fabric left over when we're done cutting this out that you can use for your other projects or something else. All right. I'm going to do this long line. So I'm cutting right on the edge of this triangle. A lot easier to cut without that paper on. Swing it around. I put the 1/4 inch on my ruler on the 1/4 inch of the template. And that one's already cut. I'm just going to nip off these edges here a little bit because we don't need those points. Peel the paper off. Stack that with my others there. Now I'm going to take this again and put it right on again on that line. Now you can decide, do you want this longer skinny piece or a shorter fat one? I don't think it really matters, but that's up to you. I'll leave one of those decisions for you to make. But I'm just going to cut mine straight across here. There's my leftovers, really nice pieces. Oh, I do got to cut one more, right? So I'm just going to park that on there. Don't have to take that off. So I picked a blue corner, a red corner, and kind of an orangey one. So measure your piece to make sure you have 6 inches. Trim off one side. 6 inches. There, now we have the 4 corners. Now we're going to sort them because right now I have on number 1 layer, I have all the same fabric. So I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to keep the one and I'm going to take the first fabric and I'm going to slide it to the back. Put the number 1 back on and set it in the spot here. All right, now I'm going to take number 2 and I'm going to move 2 to the back. So do you see how we're shuffling all of the pieces? So then when it's time to stitch them, they're going to be in all different order. So 3, I'm going to move 3. You don't have to remember where you're on. It works out perfect. 4. All right, now we have everything sorted and it's time to get ready for stitching. So meet me back here in just a bit.